The Mario series is well known for having some of the most iconic characters in video game history. Characters like Mario, Luigi, Peach, Yoshi, and Bowser have become household names and have been featured in literally hundreds of games. I mean, come on, who hasn't heard of these guys? Baddies like Goombas, Koopa Troopas, Shy Guys, and Piranha Plants have become instantly recognizable. Even less popular characters like Daisy, Waluigi, Rosalina, and the Koopa Kids, yes, kids, not this Koopaling nonsense, have large, loyal followings. However, with as huge of a library of games and as large of a cast of characters as the Super Mario series has had over the last almost 4 decades, it is unsurprising that there would be a few characters that would unfortunately fall into obscurity. And indeed, in the case of the Mario series, it's way more than just a few. Seriously, the amount of characters like this could easily fill a full casting of some weird niche Mario character spin-off of Game of Thrones. And I mean, come on, who wouldn't want to see Valentina as Cersei Lannister? Some of you guys might be wondering what kind of characters I'm talking about here. Sure, there's some great Mario characters that are arguably not used enough. Look at all the memes about Waluigi not getting into Smash, or ever getting a proper starring role in a game. Or other great characters that maybe take a backseat to the main cast. Great characters like Petey Piranha, Professor Egad, or Toadsworth might come to mind.
Oh no!
I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about characters whose glory days are long behind them. Characters who have been lucky to be in a small handful of games, or for some unfortunate souls, only one obscure game decades ago. Vanished without a trace, perhaps never to return. So, without further ado, here is my definitive list of the top 10 greatest neglected Mario characters of all time. Number 10, Wanda. The fact that when I showed frequent channel guest and collaborator James, also known as Bacon Mob, this list of characters in preparation for this video and his response was literally, "The only one I don't know is Wanda," goes to show how obscure and neglected this little fairy friend is. Making her debut in the Japan-only game Mario and Wario, Wanda is actually the only playable character in the game, and indeed the main protagonist. Wanda is controlled with the Super NES mouse, and creates blocks to help guide Mario, Yoshi, and Peach, who have had a bucket dropped on their heads by that dastardly trickster Wario, to reach the end of the level to Luigi, whose sole purpose is to, he removes the bucket off their head. Wait, if she has a magical wand that can create blocks out of thin air and also produce a hammer from nowhere to bash Wario's head in at the end of each world, why can't she just make the bucket disappear? Anyway, Wanda would have a sort of appearance in Wario's Woods a year later, although this is a bit of a gray area because the fairy that drops the bombs in the game, although looking like Wanda, is referred to in the official manual as simply a sprite. Wanda is also referred to as a sprite in the Mario and Wario manual, and also made an appearance in the Japan-only comic Super Mario Kun, specifically in the story based on Wario's Woods, so yeah, I'm gonna give her that one. I mean, yeah, otherwise she'd only have one appearance, so. Despite Wanda's short stint as a hero in 2 games, she had all but disappeared for over 20 years until 2018 when she was featured as a spirit in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I think it's high time that Wanda makes a comeback. She could easily fit in well with the Sprixie princesses from Super Mario 3D World in some sequel, or even a full-on Mario and Wario HD remake for Switch. Oh man, people would be chomping at the bit for that, and I'm sure huge lines of people would crowd up at retailers everywhere for the midnight release and celebrate the triumphant return of Wanda the Sprite. Haha. No? Well, don't worry Wanda, I still love you. Number 9, Oh Chunks! This dude is just bloody hilarious. Having recently run through most of Super Paper Mario for the first time on the channel, I can honestly say it sucked.
Oh my god!
Okay, I am officially done with this game.
I know, this is so dumb.
Yeah, it really sucked. But look, despite my many issues with Super Paper Mario,
I'm done with this game. I want to give up, honestly. I really do want to just give up on this game.
it did have its moments, and some of the characters were very entertaining and had a lot of personality. From Tippy's sassiness to Dimentio's cunning eccentricity, and Count Black's sympathetic evil, the cast proved to be a diverse pool of personalities that made the plot interesting, despite the gameplay being a convoluted cryptic mess. However, of all these characters, O-Chunks was the one that just kept me in stitches, and not just the ones on his kilt. I mean, just look at these lines of dialogue.
I've never made a way like this since I last stood me up long ago. You did this to break your concentration, your likes the cheating. You crazed loon, it's not the time for asparagus. How could you be chunkier than I? You're not but a bloomin' turtle. Your hands are quivered like a lady of my mum's lord gravy. Don't be the tough guy, go.
Maybe my love of the character is sort of rooted in the fun I had doing the voiceover for him. I'm Joe Chunks. Anyway, yeah, you get the point. But it wouldn't have been anything without the genuinely hilarious dialogue. Props to the writers. Even his design is hilarious. I mean, just look at him. Ridiculous. Him, as well as many of the other characters unique to that game, have such different designs from the rest of the Mario universe, and I would love to see a lot of these characters, especially O-Chunks, return in a much better game. Alas, aside from a cameo as a sticker in Brawl, O-Chunks has seemingly fallen into a void of obscurity. Hopefully he can make his triumphant return to the Paper Mario series one day, and in the meantime, I hope he's happily dancing a jig somewhere in the hills of Scotland. Number 8, Colorado. The original Paper Mario is a game that is very near and dear to my heart, and while it should be stated right up front that all of these characters need to come back, particularly the partners who accompany Mario on his first paper-thin adventure, such as Cooper, Bombette, Parakarry, and Bo, it's world-renowned archaeologist Colorado who I think deserves to come back the most. Why, dear man, do you ask? Colorado is just a treasure. His personality really takes over every scene he is in, and I just love his dedication to embarking on a new adventure and seeking rare treasure. And I mean, just look at that glorious mustache. I mean, come on, guys. Hello. The entire Lava Lava Island sequence of the game always really stood out to me when I first played Paper Mario, and it was the hilarious scenes with Colorado that were the reason. His personality always struck me as kind of being an Indiana Jones type of character, and indeed, upon researching him, that is what the developers were going for. Even so far as naming him after a US state. I see what you did there, Nintendo. Cooper's admiration for Colorado is also very charming, and the conflict between Colorado's thirst for adventure and his wife's desire for him to settle down makes for some really hilarious moments. Despite his reputation, Colorado has only appeared in the original Paper Mario, although he is referenced a tiny bit in the Thousand Year Door. He has not been seen since. Perhaps the old chap has just been busy adventuring this whole time. I think Colorado's character has a lot of potential for not just future Mario games, but as its own spin-off game or TV show following the adventures of Professor Colorado and Cooper. Here's hoping the old bean makes his triumphant return soon, perhaps gloriously riding in on a giant tuna. Number 7, Captain Syrup. Captain Syrup is a pirate thief who is Wario's primary rival in the Wario Land series. She is also notable as being the very first female antagonist in the entire Mario series. She originally appears at the end of Wario Land, Super Mario Land 3, with a huge fat genie that Wario must defeat in order to collect a hoard of treasure. She returns again in Wario Land 2 and steals Wario's riches. Geez, talk about a couple of sleazeballs, huh? Stealing each other's treasure? However, she would not return for the two sequels, Wario Land 3 and 4 on the Game Boy Color and Advance, respectively. Sadly, she would fall into obscurity for an entire decade until her triumphant return, with a snazzy new design I might add, in Wario Land Shake It for the Wii. She plays more of a support role in that game, providing Wario with maps and also, flirting with him. Ugh. Geez, no accounting for taste, I guess, unless maybe she really likes garlic. Anyway, she ultimately ends up tricking Wario and taking the treasure for herself. Sadly, the conniving, thieving captain of the SST Cup would once again disappear, along with the Wario Land series itself, for another decade, and she has since only appeared as a spirit in Smash Ultimate. I say it's high time that Captain Syrup takes this bigger role in the Mario games. She's quite unique, being really the only prolific female villain in the series. Yes, I know there's Wendy Koopa, but and she would fit nicely in a Mario Kart or Mario Party title. And honestly, going off script here for a second, she is one of the more interesting and less generic female Mario characters in general. Or hey, how about we make her a guest boss in a Shantae game? Or hey, how about a Wario Land Shantae crossover? Come on, Nintendo, while you're at it, bring back Lump. I mean, look at this guy, what a cutie. Lump for Smash. He's my favorite character in Dr. Mario 64. Number 6, Brown Yoshi. Oh man. Don't even get me started on the injustice that is Brown Yoshi. First appearing in the first true Yoshi adventure title, Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island, Brown Yoshi was playable on the 6th level of every world, often relegated to a cave or underground level. Despite not really having any special abilities that differentiate it from any of the other Yoshis, I always felt that Brown Yoshi stood out for some reason. I mean, think about it. Brown is a weird color choice considering the other Yoshi colors are quite vibrant, and Orange Yoshi did not even exist at this point. So why brown? I don't know, it's just a weird and interesting choice to me, and I like weird and interesting things. Despite being one of the original 8 Yoshis, no other Yoshi would have to deal with the neglect and flat-out robbery of appearances that Brown Yoshi would. Both brown and purple Yoshi were originally slated to be included in Yoshi's story, even making a cameo in the opening of the game, but they were ultimately scrapped. I don't know why, like, what were you thinking? Come on, Nintendo. A single brown Yoshi would also appear in Paper Mario on Lava Lava Island, another reason to love that sequence of the game, by the way, as the Chief Yoshi's best friend. This Yoshi appears to be old and refers to the Fearsome Five as being like grandchildren to it. Maybe this was Nintendo's subtle way of telling us that they were retiring old brown Yoshi. So sad. Sadly, brown Yoshi would not return in any future Yoshi games, seemingly being replaced by orange Yoshi. The sole exception of this being the ported version of Yoshi's Island or Super Mario Advance 3. And apparently he's also in Yoshi Touch and Go, but I have yet to see any evidence of this, and I haven't played the game, so yeah, that one's a little up in the air too. A few sort of variants of brown Yoshi are also featured in Yoshi's Woolly World, such as Hot Cocoa Yoshi, but as of the recording of this, brown Yoshi has yet to truly return. Why not, Nintendo? Literally all of the other Yoshi colors have been prominently featured in Mario Kart, Smash, and the newer Yoshi games, so why leave brown Yoshi out? It boggles my mind, and I personally hope to one day see brown Yoshi's epic return to the franchise. And in the meantime, let's get that change.org petition going ASAP. Justice for brown Yoshi! Yeah! Number 5, Wart. Out of all the characters on this list, Wart seems like the character that had the best shot of being something more. As the main antagonist of Super Mario Bros. 2, Wart was only the third main villain to ever be featured in a Mario game. The other two, of course, being a couple of other sort of well-known characters named Donkey Kong and Bowser. You might have heard of them. Who knows? On a side note, I'd love to meet the guy who knows Wart, but doesn't know Bowser or Donkey Kong. If you exist, DM me immediately on Twitter, please. I need to meet this person. Wart is an evil frog king who takes over Subcon, a world of dreams, by stealing the Dream Machine and conquering the land with his army. Mario and friends defeat him by throwing vegetables in his mouth. Yeah, seriously, I guess this guy really doesn't like veggies at all. He seems to have adopted a very high-carb diet, but I digress. Sadly, this would become Wart's only major role in a game. The question for me here is why? I mean, I love Bowser. He's one of the greatest villains in gaming. But what would be the harm in him taking the backseat for a game or two to let Wart have some time in the spotlight? Or even better, have Wart team up with Bowser to take over the Mushroom Kingdom, or some kind of thing like that. Unfortunately for Wart, he would only reappear in the many ports and remakes of Super Mario Bros. 2 released over the years, such as Super Mario All-Stars and Super Mario Advance, where actually Charles Martinet voices him, which is pretty interesting.
I am the Great Wart! Ha ha ha!
He would, however, make a cameo in Link's Awakening for the Game Boy, and even reprised that role recently in the remake of Link's Awakening for the Nintendo Switch. Otherwise, he's only been referenced in other games, and is featured as a spirit in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. On a side note, am I alone in thinking that Wart would make an absolute perfect Echo Fighter for K. Rool? No? Alright. Just me, I guess. Poor Wart. I mean, he could have had the same potential as Bowser, but his dreams have been dashed, stuck in the nightmare of reliving the same game over and over again. He's basically Bill Murray. Here's hoping Wart emerges once again in a future game. And while you're at it, Nintendo, bring back Mouser and the other bosses too. Everyone loves them. Number 4, Tanga. Another primary villain that's gotten the short end of the stick. Tanga is a purple alien that kidnaps Princess Daisy and takes over the kingdom of Sarasaland in the original Super Mario Land for the Game Boy. He's a cute little guy with a ship named Pagosu, and basically Mario has to fly a ship of his own called the Sky Pop to face him in an epic space battle at the end of the game. If you'd consider tiny black and white 8-bit sprites dancing around a screen epic, yeah, but it's still pretty cool. Tanga would also be featured as a boss in Super Mario Land 2, 6 Golden Coins, as one of Wario's cronies. He's a boss holding one of the 6 coins that Mario needs to collect. Aside from appearing in a few comics, Tanga has not been featured prominently in a game since. He too was featured as a spirit in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, marking his first appearance in a game in a whopping 26 years. Holy wow. That's a long time. Jeez. Mario must have beaten Tanga pretty badly for him to be gone so long. Tanga is a very interesting and unique villain, and I always thought that the Super Mario Land trilogy had a very unique style and feel to it. This is perhaps due to the games being produced by the late, great Gunpei Yokoi, inventor of the Game Boy. Interestingly enough, as obscure as Tanga has become, Daisy has since grown to become a very popular Mario character, and as baffling as it seems, her kingdom, Sarasaland, has never been revisited since. I say it's about time for a game featuring Daisy, Sarazaland, and yes, Tanga for the first time in almost 3 decades. For being the main villain of the very first Mario adventure on a handheld, Tanga deserves way better. And how has this guy not been in a game? I mean, come on, he's an alien. Mario Galaxy? Hello? Or how about, like, having Sarazaland as a kingdom in Super Mario Odyssey or something? Really dropping the ball hard here, Nintendo. Number 3, Harry. Okay, so growing up, one of my absolute favorite games for the Nintendo 64 was Mario Golf. It was the first real entry in the Mario Sports series of games, and really launched an entire franchise of its own developed by Camelot. Camelot! For some odd reason, the first Mario Golf featured a slew of original characters alongside iconic Mario characters. I guess they were out of ideas. I mean, it's not like there are a bajillion characters to choose from or anything. Anyway, as a kid, I saw characters like Plum, Charlie, and Sunny and wondered where the heck these guys came from out of left field. However, as great as these characters ended up being, it was always Harry that was my favorite. Harry has a kind of weird personality, taking himself a little too seriously to the point where it's actually quite hilarious. I mean, who takes golf as seriously as Harry, aside from maybe Tiger Woods or something? While literally every other character, including Bowser and Wario, celebrates getting a par, Harry grunts and looks frustrated. His voice actor does a really good job at conveying a very dry, serious personality, which I just find hilarious for some reason. I also thought that of all the original human characters, he seemed to aesthetically fit in with the Mario characters a bit more, given his blue cap and the fact that he can produce a star when he gets a high score. Maybe he has magical powers? I don't know. Look, to be honest, I really enjoy all of these original characters from Mario Golf. But aside from Plum being featured as a trophy in Super Smash Bros. Melee, literally none of them have had an appearance since the original game, now over 20 years ago.
Oh no!
I know, surprising and hugely disappointing to be sure. It's time to change that. At the very least, I'd love to see Harry and the gang return to the Mario Golf series, perhaps in a brand new title for the Switch. Of course, the dream is for Harry to have his own starring role in a game of his own. Harry is such a great character, such an underrated character.
Yeah, he's awesome.
I wish he was in like every Mario game that followed.
Yeah. I wish he was like the star of a game, you know, like a Harry-focused game.
Like Harry's like golf adventure, and it's like Harry is trying to get the golden golf club from that's been stolen by Bowser, you know, and on the way just happens to run into Princess Peach and like, you know, like saves her in a much quicker and more efficient time than Mario would, you know.
Of course he would.
That'd be amazing. Yes, Harry on a quest for the golden golf clubs. No? Well, yeah, it probably won't ever happen. However, there just might be a YouTuber out there who could take an idea like that to a ridiculous extent and write an entire script for a film about that very idea. I don't know. Who on earth would be so crazy as to do something like that? Stay tuned.
Oh no.
Number 2, Stanley. Stanley, or Stanley the Bugman as he is known, is the main character of the third game in the original Donkey Kong series. Replacing Mario as the main protagonist of the game, Stanley utilizes a bug spray can to fend off Donkey Kong from destroying his greenhouse. Man, Donkey Kong is really scraping the bottom of the barrel to cause mischief, huh? No wonder he became so cranky. Get it? Cranky? Anyway. Although Stanley has a lot of similar features to Mario and had a starring role in one of the earliest Mario games, he has barely been seen since its original appearance in 1983. And like, 1983, we're talking pre-Super Mario Bros. Here, so that's a long time. Of all the characters on this list, Stanley's story is perhaps the most tragic, as he was literally one of the very first Nintendo characters. Wow, Nintendo, how you gonna do one of your OG boys dirty like that? Stanley has reappeared throughout the years on various other ports of Donkey Kong 3, such as the original Game & Watch version, the port of that on the Game & Watch Gallery game series, the WarioWare versions, and has also made cameos as a trophy in Super Smash Bros. Melee, and as a spirit recently in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Stanley would also appear in a very obscure direct sequel released in 1984 called Donkey Kong 3 Dai Gyakushu. Hopefully I got the pronunciation of that right. So yeah, you guys can correct or flame me in the comments if I did not. Developed by Hudson Soft, the game was lost for many years until a copy of the Sharp X1 version was found at an auction in 2017. Wow, man, that's like an obscure version of an obscure game. It's like ultra obscure, or something like that. Despite Stanley not having a prolific role for an astounding 37 years, almost 4 decades, wow! the character hasn't been totally forgotten by Nintendo fans. I have a particularly interesting history with this character, and that Stanley the Bugman was the very first internet alias I used back in the early 2000s. Yeah, I wasn't a very imaginative kid when it came to names, I know. When I would post on Nintendo forums, and even when I started my first website called Stanley the Bugman's Mario page on GeoCities. Hey, look, there it is right there, see? I wasn't lying to you. Thanks a bunch, Wayback Machine, for resurrecting some great memories. On a side note, if anyone who watches this actually remembers my old website, wow, just like, kudos, wow, like, yeah, I got no words for that. As it stands, get it? Stand? Like Stanley? I'm sorry. Anyway, as of now, Stanley is unfortunately still lost in the deep, nostalgic depths of Nintendo's past. I say it's time that Stanley officially becomes the next DLC fighter for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Come on, Sakurai, we all know how much you love your old, obscure NES characters. It's time to bring Stanley the Bugman back in full force and give him his much-deserved time in the spotlight. Here's hoping that happens, or at the very least we can see him return to the Mario universe in some way, or even the Donkey Kong series. I don't care, just bring back Stanley. Before we get to the number one neglected character, here's a quick list of a bunch of baddies that I think need to come back. Now for the moment you've all been waiting for. The number one most neglected character that needs to come back. I'm just gonna come right out and say that he's from an amazing Super NES game that is very near and dear to my heart. I don't think any of you people who are regulars on my channel are gonna be surprised by what game I'm talking about here, but of course, Super Mario RPG is my favorite game of all time. And this is a character who is beloved by Super Mario RPG fans the world over and has sadly been ignored for over 20 years despite fans' outcry for him to return in a game again. I'm of course talking about none other than Mallow. Oh, were you expecting someone else? Maybe a possessed doll in a blue cape and hat? Look, I'm gonna be completely honest here. First and foremost, all of the original characters from Super Mario RPG need to make a return. This list could have easily encompassed purely original characters from Super Mario RPG. That's how great this cast is. From bosses like Smithy, Mac, Bowyer, and the Axum Rangers, to unique and great characters like Booster, Valentina, Frogfucius, and Boshi, Super Mario RPG featured an absolute treasure trove of unique Mushroom Kingdom stars that have not been seen since the original game, unless all the chubby Yoshi memes count. Yes, we all know who the obvious choice is of all the characters who should return, but I think Mallow deserves just as much recognition as Geno. And come on guys, let's be honest here, I don't shut up about Geno. I've made a whole video about him and his chances of being in Smash Ultimate, and he's come up in so many of my other videos that I think I would be remiss in my duties if I didn't give Mallow some love too. And to be honest, as badly as I want Geno to return, he seems extremely likely at this point to pop up somewhere, given all the attention that he has received among the Smash speculation community. I mean, everyone knows who Geno is now, or at least have heard of him, and his return just seems like it's going to happen at some point. Also, unlike Geno, Mallow has only recently reappeared in Smash Ultimate as a spirit, ending a 22-year absence for the poor little guy. Geno at least made a cameo in the original Mario & Luigi, and had a Mii Fighter costume in Super Smash Bros. 4. Now, back to Mallow. He's a prince from the clouds who was raised as a tadpole by a wise old frog named Frogfucius. He is actually the very first party member that you get in Super Mario RPG, and has powerful magic. Attacks like Thunderbolt, Shocker, and Snowy made Mallow a vital member of the party, and as far as his personality goes, I think he is the most hilarious character in the game. I mean, a puffy cloud character who is convinced he's a tadpole despite looking nothing like one is kinda hilarious. As a kid, it was actually Mallow rather than Geno that stood out to me first. You really see his character grow up from being a kind of immature crybaby to a responsible adult, and he has some of the most infamous lines in the game, particularly this one. I think of all the characters in the game, Mallow actually has the most complete story and perhaps the most satisfying. At the time Super Mario RPG was released, the Mario series as a whole really hadn't fleshed out its universe and characters fully, and Super Mario RPG was really the first game that we got to see different personalities of the characters in the Mario universe, at least somewhat realized. Mallow and Geno, both being vital members of the party, always seemed like two characters who were going to return and who were important to the Mario universe. However, that didn't happen due to Square Enix owning at least in part the rights to the characters. I, along with many other fans, have always wondered what the big deal was in Nintendo negotiating with Square to get these characters back, or to at least be able to use them. However, I really feel like the tipping point has been reached with this, and I think especially with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and the overall popularity of Super Mario RPG these days, that Mallow, Geno, and the rest of the stellar Super Mario RPG cast are destined to return someday, if not in a remake, then at least in a direct sequel. Heck, I'd even be okay with them just making cameos in another game. Come on, Nintendo, and you too, Square Enix, let's get Mallow and the rest of the Super Mario RPG gang back into the Mario universe again. It's long past time that this happened, seriously. Well, that about wraps up this video. There were tons of other characters that could have made this list. I mean, who wouldn't want to witness the triumphant return of Foreman Spike or Prince Pine? Don't know who they are? And we certainly can't forget about this random dude from Mario is Missing. I mean, look at this guy. Also, Fawful fans, please don't kill me for not including him on this list. He's great, but yeah, sorry guys, he just missed the mark for me. Here's hoping all of the characters on this list make their epic return back to the Mario series someday. And if not, somebody make a fan game specifically about obscure Mario characters like this, on a quest to become mainstream again, or something like that. So basically they all want to become hipsters. I don't know. Anyway, how many of these characters do you want to see again, and who did I miss? Thank you everybody so much for watching this video. As always, I really appreciate all of your support, and I hope you'll drop me a like and subscribe for more content in the future. Later guys, peace.